Dear Sagittarius, there is something collapsing in your life, but it's not here to destroy you. It's here to awaken you. You are not here by accident. If you're hearing these words, it's because the universe is whispering a warning into your soul. A tidal wave is quietly approaching. No one sees it. No one can name it. But you, Sagittarius soul, you can feel it. And if you don't listen in time, you could lose the very thing you once prayed hardest to receive. Today, I'm going to show you why a high-level astrological warning is headed straight toward you, Sagittarius. Why the unease you've been feeling isn't random. It's the signal of a destined shift. And most importantly, how to escape the trap that an invisible force is quietly preparing in your path. Write in the comments, I'm ready to face the truth, to step into my soul's destiny. Because when you write those words, you're not just confirming something. You're activating a new frequency, connecting you to the energy that chose you long before you were ever born. And if you think this is just a fleeting feeling, then you need to stay. Because Jupiter is about to explode inside Sagittarius's field, and that will ignite an irreversible event. Are you ready to hear the truth, Sagittarius? Sagittarius, no one tells you that light can become a burden when you're the only one who sees what's coming. While everyone else chooses not to look, no one teaches you how to survive. When you're born with a heart too wide in a world too used to shutting down. And now, as Jupiter, your ruling planet, is being forced into tight, suffocating corners by the constrictive forces of Saturn and Pluto, an unavoidable phenomenon begins, the explosion of the inner self. Maybe lately you've felt suffocated inside the very relationships you once called peaceful. You find yourself running out of patience for half-spoken truths, for connections that feel half real and half false. You feel something tightening right in your chest, even when everything on the surface looks calm. That's the Jupiter inside you, screaming, not to frighten you, but to make it impossible for you to keep pretending. There are moments when someone has spent too long being overly forgiving. The universe creates extreme disruptions, not to punish, but to remind. Generosity does not mean a lack of boundaries. This is the deepest lesson I've learned, as someone who has spent nearly 50 years observing the cycles of Jupiter, and something I always remind my students, especially those born under Sagittarius. Light doesn't always bring enlightenment. If you shine it into a place that isn't ready to receive it, you will be the first to burn. Sagittarius, you might be going through a silent rebellion. No one sees it, no one knows. But inside you, an energetic bomb is quietly forming. With every time you've had to stay silent in the face of injustice, with every time you've forgiven, not because they deserved it, but because you were afraid of losing them, even if it meant losing yourself. Are you living inside a silent rebellion like that? Write down what you're feeling. Because when you write it down, you begin to release it. I believe every astrological sign is a door. But not everyone dares to walk through it. The square between Jupiter and Saturn, Pluto, is like a turning axis between faith and boundaries, between wisdom and repressed emotion. It touches the deepest parts of you, the parts you buried, the parts you hid, the parts you sacrificed, just to be loved. I once knew a Sagittarius, a woman, 52 years old, who had lived her entire life for others, smiling through tears, believing love meant enduring. Until one day, when her Jupiter squared Pluto, she suddenly couldn't breathe. She quit her job. She left a 20-year marriage, and she said, I don't know what just happened, but for the first time in my life, I'm not afraid to live as myself. Maybe you're standing at that same threshold, Sagittarius, a threshold no one else sees, but inside you, it's trembling. I don't want to keep living to please others. I don't want to stay silent to keep the peace. I can't keep pretending I'm okay. If you've ever had those thoughts, don't rush to think you're being too emotional. That's the sign of a soul awakening. Because when a Sagittarius stops, it's not because they gave up. It's because they've endured too long in silence. Jupiter, the symbol of expansion, is teaching you a new definition. Expansion isn't about making more room for others. It's about creating enough space to return to yourself. The deepest lesson of this cycle isn't about letting someone go. It's this. You must be willing to say no to your old self, the version of you who accepted less than you deserved. The version who lowered your head in love because you feared being left behind. The version who thought love meant suffering. Sagittarius, you were not born to live with your head down. You are the symbol of the spiritual arrow, a beam of light that rises even when everything on earth tries to pull it down. Write it down right now if this is touching something in you. I am awakening, and I will not return to who I used to be. Because you need to know, there are times when collapse doesn't come from the outside. It comes from within. From the place where you can no longer tolerate the limitations you once built around yourself. And when the things you once forgave are now choking your spirit, when the things you once defended are now exhausting your heart, that's not a sign that you're changing too fast. It means this: you are finally moving at the speed of your soul. I won't tell you this process will be easy, but I promise you this: it will bring you back to who you truly are. The silence in your soul, a new door, or an old person returning just when you're no longer who you once were. Hold on to that feeling, because right after this, we are about to enter the moment when the universe sends Sagittarius a warning, not to scare you, but to wake you up, and you'll have to choose. Will you run, or will you stand still, look truth in the eye, and walk through the door that no one but you was ever meant to open? Don't leave this video, because what comes next is one of the most powerful messages from the cosmos to Sagittarius this year. When a door closes, most people think of endings. But for you, a soul marked by journeys and light, every closing door is a passageway to a deeper illumination. Lately, you may have felt that the world around you is changing too quickly. So quickly, you no longer recognize where you belong. The things that once felt familiar now seem foreign. The people who once felt close are quietly stepping out of your circle. And perhaps you've begun asking yourself, did I do something wrong? Let me say this, gently but honestly, you did nothing wrong. You're just evolving. And when your light expands, the things no longer aligned with it must fall away. In your current star chart, Mars is forming a direct opposition to the Sun in Sagittarius. This is not a random event in the cosmos. It's a signal, a silent spiritual battle, where all that is false has nowhere left to hide. Where truth can no longer be postponed. It's not here to punish you. It's here to liberate you, though sometimes in ways that feel harsh. I've watched this cycle unfold in many lives. Relationships that once felt warm and permanent suddenly shatter. Places you once called home begin to feel so suffocating you can barely breathe. And then one day, with no warning, no culprit, everything breaks. Not because you failed, but because your truth can no longer survive in spaces addicted to pretense. There will be moments when you feel abandoned. That feeling, I know it well. It's quiet, persistent, hard to name, like standing before a door that will never open again. And no one stands on the other side to say goodbye. But Sagittarius, listen, there are times you weren't rejected. You were being protected from places that no longer fit you. That is not a loss. That is a blessing in disguise. A door that seemed cruel was actually the threshold your soul needed to step into its next dimension of light. If you feel like you're being pushed out of a space, a relationship, or even an old version of yourself, I invite you to write in the comments, I am stepping away from what no longer fits my soul. Because when you write that, you're not just admitting a truth, you're activating a new field of energy. A quiet confirmation to the universe that you are ready to leave what once held you captive in the illusion of comfort. I once walked with a Sagittarius man, 37 years old. He was cheerful, radiant, bringing laughter wherever he went. But behind the brightness was a heart suffocating in a relationship built entirely on avoidance. He told me, I tried so hard to become the version of me that she needed, that I no longer recognized myself. But in the end, she still left. And when Mars touched his Sagittarius sun, everything collapsed. But from that collapse, he found his voice again. You see, sometimes the price of living your truth is losing the people who only loved the well-behaved version of you. But that obedient version was never you. You may be facing a difficult decision: to walk away, to say no, to set boundaries, not out of resentment, but out of self-respect. Not for anyone else, but because your soul can no longer compromise. And in the very moment you feel like you've lost something precious, I invite you to take a deep breath and ask yourself, was that truly a part of me, or just a version I forced myself to hold on to? If you're standing at that crossroads, share with us. Do you feel like you're being pushed out of spaces or relationships you once called home? Share your truth so we can heal together. Because the truth is, what you think you're losing might be exactly what the universe is asking you to release, and what you're about to receive might just be something you never believed you were worthy of. Do you remember? Whenever Sagittarius walks through a dark corridor in their chart, it's never to become tougher, but to become more honest with themselves. And every time something crumbles, something sacred is quietly being rebuilt. But after the collapse, there is always light, for those brave enough not to turn back. And if you stay, I'll show you what kind of divine energy a Sagittarius soul reaches after being cleansed by fire and tears. There's one thing the universe always reserves for Sagittarius. It's the ability to see truth, even when everyone else is still asleep in their comforting dreams. You're not here to start wars. You're here to name what no one else dares to name. You're not rebellious. You're just honest too early in a world still addicted to denial. And for that, you're often misunderstood as the enemy in places no one else has dared to walk. I once said, among the 12 signs, only Sagittarius dares to live so truthfully. To live honestly, even if it means standing alone. To live honestly, even when the world doubts your every step. To live honestly, with nothing but a heart on fire for ideals and justice. And it's that fire that makes you the first to sense the explosion, when everyone else is still pretending it's not coming. You may be carrying a feeling no one can quite explain, a sense that something feels wrong, something is shifting, something is being revealed. And maybe you've tried to say it out loud, but were met with, you're too sensitive, you're overthinking, or even, you're just being negative. But let's be honest, Sagittarius, have you ever felt like you're the only one who sees the cracks beneath the perfection, but no one believes you? If the answer is yes, you're not alone. I've been there too. I've seen the fractures forming under what seemed like flawless facades. I've felt the collapse looming, while others still smiled on the surface, and I know that feeling, like a torch left burning alone in a sleeping square. But light is never comfortable to those who've lived too long in the dark, and not everyone can handle your light. But Sagittarius, that's not a reason to dim it. One of the deepest soul lessons for Sagittarius is this: learning not to apologize for seeing too much, learning to hold your inner flame, even if it means walking the road alone. A listener once shared with me, she's a Sagittarius, and since childhood, she could feel the truth behind the smiles in her family. But every time she spoke up, she was told she was rude or imagining things. So she learned to stay silent, until one day, that truth erupted, and everything she had sensed was proven real. She said, I wish I had the courage to trust my intuition sooner. So today I want to say to you, with deep empathy and respect for your Sagittarius soul, if something feels wrong, trust that. If you sense a shift coming, prepare. Because the truth, no matter how long it's denied, always finds its way into the light. Write this down if it speaks to you. I no longer apologize for the light within me. Because when you say it, you are no longer denying the most sacred part of who you are. There's another truth you need to know. Your soul wasn't born just to live, but to awaken others. Every time you speak what's true, you are performing a quiet ritual, a sacred act that brings the world a little closer to the truth. That is why prophecies come to you earlier than they come to others. Not to frighten you, but to prepare you. To prepare you for a mission greater than yourself. To prepare you to become a guiding light when everyone else begins to tremble as the truth begins to crack open. So dear Sagittarius, if you feel like something is falling away inside you, don't be afraid. It's only the old layers shedding, so your soul can step into its next light. And soon you'll realize behind everything that's falling apart, there's no real loss. There's only a new identity being revealed. And you'll see that even more clearly when a sudden decision, a person returning, a seemingly random signal, opens a completely different path. A door will open, but the question is, will you walk through it? Or turn away because you're afraid of the sacred things you truly deserve? Stay with me, because soon I'll tell you the story of a meeting, a truth, an awakening possibility that only brave souls will ever recognize. There are crossroads that arrive in silence. No sound, no warning lights. Only a vague sensation inside you whispering, if I choose wrong this time, there might not be a way back. And you might be standing at such a moment right now, Sagittarius. This season, the axis between Sagittarius and Gemini is being activated powerfully by the new moon and Mercury retrograde, an ancient cycle once called the season of truth and deception. Not because someone is trying to lie to you, but because you must face yourself before you can truly trust anyone else. Maybe someone is about to come back, an unexpected message, an old name, a quiet "I'm sorry" soft as wind, but carrying a storm of memories. Or maybe a new opportunity will appear, glamorous, perfect timing, as if the universe is handing back what you once lost. But Sagittarius, this is no longer the time to ask, is this good? The real question is, am I still the same person I was? Because deep down you know, some things are only beautiful from a distance. Some people belong only in memory. Some places are meant to be passed through, but never returned to. You once lost yourself, trying to hold on to someone. You once shrank just to be loved by someone. You once stayed silent because you feared losing what you thought was the only thing. So now, as that thing returns, are you ready to place your hand over your heart and ask, do I truly want to live that way again? I know some doors feel so familiar. I know some voices once felt like destiny. I know the ache when memories come rushing back and you whisper to yourself, but what if this time it's different? But my dear, if last time it broke you, if last time you had to lose yourself to keep it alive, then the only reason you should ever walk into it again is if you are no longer the person you were back then. Not everything that returns is a miracle. Sometimes it's just a lesson you haven't finished learning yet. Pause for a moment, in silence, and ask yourself, am I choosing this out of love or out of familiarity? If you're standing in that moment, uncertain, torn, unsure of what to believe anymore, I invite you to share. Are you standing before a major decision and don't know what to trust? Share it. I'll read every word. You don't have to decide right away, but you do have to be honest with your heart. Because these doors, once you walk through them, they don't open again. I've seen many live with regret, not because they lost something, but because they went back to something old, just because they were too afraid to walk into something new. And that old thing, once again, swallowed their light. Sagittarius, you've come too far to go back now. You have awakened, you have endured. You've stitched your wounds back together, in silence, and you owe no one your sacrifice anymore. So if a door is creaking open before you now, ask yourself, does it love my light, or does it only love the version of me who used to stay quiet? If you're not sure, wait, because the things that come from the soul will never make you panic. They bring peace, even when you don't fully understand them yet. And then, when you finally dare to turn away from old doors, when you stop chasing things that only look right, that is exactly when the real miracle arrives. Not because you searched for it, but because you made space for it. I will tell you the story of an unplanned meeting, an undeniable truth, and a soul awakening that only those brave enough to let go can ever reach. Sometimes a person enters your life, not to love you the way you're used to, but to see you in a way even you haven't dared to see yourself. Right now, Venus is entering Leo, the 9th house of Sagittarius, opening a rare period, a soul awakening through spiritual love. The 9th house in astrology is the house of philosophy, soul, and belief. When Venus, the planet of love, enters this house, love is no longer just about emotion, it becomes a sacred calling. And you, Sagittarius, the one who seeks truth in every lived experience, you're about to meet someone whose eyes won't stop at your surface, or even the stories you tell. They will see right through that shell and touch the part of your soul you thought no one could ever know. It might be someone new, entering your life in the most ordinary way, but something in their gaze makes you feel seen. Or it could be someone from the past, returning, but with a new heart and a soul that's finally walked through the growth they once ran from. But whoever they are, They won't ask you, "What have you accomplished? How much have you changed? Do you still deserve love?" They will just sit in silence and look at you with the reverence one soul gives to another soul. Have you ever felt that? Have you ever met someone whose gaze made you feel completely seen? Share it if you've ever experienced this, because maybe you've also been the one who once saw someone's soul without them even knowing it. True love is not where you have to change yourself just to stay. It's not where you must dim your brilliance so others don't feel overwhelmed. True love is when you are fully yourself without needing to hide your light. You don't need to shrink to fit inside someone else's heart. The one truly meant for you will expand their heart to hold all of you. I once heard a quote I'll never forget. The right person will never make you question your light. They will quietly help you hold it when you feel too tired to carry it alone. Sagittarius, maybe you've grown used to relationships that came to suppress, to reshape, to control. And maybe you've been taught to call that love. But from this moment on, you'll begin to feel something different, a deeper kind of connection, where the soul speaks before the heart even has time to flutter. That is what spiritual love feels like. It doesn't make you anxious, it makes you peaceful. It doesn't make you maintain an image, it lets you shed your armor. And in that very state, you'll realize you are healing just by being in the presence of that person. If you're sensing that you're about to step into a different kind of connection, something you can't quite name, write this down. I am ready to be seen through the eyes of the soul. Because sometimes, that declaration alone is the key that opens a door you never expected. You don't need to search for this person. You only need to be completely honest with yourself. And when you do that, they will recognize you among millions. They're not coming to rescue you, not to teach you anything. They're coming to walk with you, not in front, not behind, but beside you. And when you're standing next to someone who truly sees your soul, you'll never live by others' expectations again. You'll begin to live in alignment with your soul's truth. And then, once you step into that state, a state of clarity, of being seen, of being your full self, something even deeper will unfold. An invisible event, yet powerful enough to change the entire trajectory of your destiny. A gateway is about to open, not for the faint of heart, but for the souls who are ready. Dear Sagittarius, if you've stayed until this final moment, I know your soul has touched something profound. Not from me, but from within you, from a place inside that's been quiet for too long. I know this journey hasn't been easy. I know you've walked through doubt, so many urges to turn back, so many moments of being misunderstood, yet you kept going. And you've made it. And it is no coincidence that you are here. Thank you for choosing to listen, not just to this video, but to the voice inside you, the voice you've silenced so many times thinking you were too sensitive, too irrational, too much. You are not too much. You are on time. Thank you for having the courage to face the truth, even when the truth hurt. And thank you for no longer wanting a quiet life, but a truthful one. If something in this video touched your heart, leave a comment below. I'm ready to live in alignment with my soul, starting today. Because when you write that, you're not just speaking to me, you're speaking to the universe, declaring, you're ready. And if you believe that someone out there, someone who's struggling, someone who needs a hand, a light, a reminder, might need this message, please share this video with them. It could be the very thing they need right now to not give up. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because the messages that are coming next, I promise, will not just be astrological forecasts. They'll be soul messages meant just for you at the exact moment you need them most. And finally, wherever you are, whatever you are going through, remember, you are not lost. You are on your way back to yourself. And if you've ever felt alone, know this. Here, your light is understood, and you are seen. See you again soon on the next chapter of this journey, where an even greater door is waiting for you to be brave enough to open it.